call this budget meeting to order, and I know that our mayor is on a well-deserved vacation, so I'm sure he'll spend lots of time with Gord and Chris when he comes back, bring himself up to date. He'll memorize this stuff.
We've briefed him very well already, Mr.
Yeah, good. So I want to thank everybody. Thank everybody for coming, and thank everybody for their hard work so far in this capital budget. I know it's everybody's favorite time of year. So without any further ado, we'll move right along. So disclosure of pecuniary interests. Hearing none, there was no minutes of the previous meeting, so we'll go on to additional items. If there's any additional items, we can do it at the end. We'll have the resolution. The Town of Minto Council convenes into the Committee of the Whole to conduct budgetary deliberations, moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Gunson. All in favor of that? That's carried. So there'll be, I've already did my introduction, so we'll move right along to 6B, which is the presentation of the 2019 capital budget.
2020.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We're
so we'll change that.
We're on to the change. Yeah.
All right. So let's move right into it.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. As you know, we've been through this many times, and with this council we've done one budget already, so this is no strange process to anybody. This is the capital budget only. The one change we did make this year is we're doing capital ahead of operating, simply because there's a lot of changes going on in operating, and we need to have a little bit more figures on end of year figures and that, so we can figure out where we're going with operating. And as well, some of the grants and that we get that help us with our operating, we're waiting to see what they look like in that. So we're moving slowly forward with the operating, but the capital one is fairly straightforward this year. As you know, through previous council meetings that we've had, a lot of the projects you've approved already, simply because we've had to apply for grants and have been successful in a couple of them, which required you to approve before we could get into this budget process. So when we explain this, you'll see that there's a couple projects you've approved already, and they're in the capital budget. So that's that. The title that we put on this year's presentation and this year's budget is the beginning of change. Not only changing of decades, but changing in a lot of things. We're currently in a CAO search, as everybody knows. We've done a little bit of reorganization, and we're got some new staff hired. So it's the beginning of change, is what we thought was appropriate. And following in our previous CAO Bill's footsteps, we always put in a couple quotes. I always thought that was kind of a neat thing you did, but two that I found this year is it's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change, which I thought was very appropriate. Not that we're not the most intelligent, but that we are the most responsive to change. Clarify that for staff behind us. And then Winston Churchill said, to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. So we've always prided ourselves in Minto of staying on top of the curve or ahead of the curve, and making sure that we're progressing and changing as we need to. And this is definitely times that that we need to stay with that. The service review that just took place at your beginning of presentation that you're all digesting and reading your KPMG study is another aspect of change and how we're looking forward in the future. So as I said, this is the beginning of it, and we're priding ourselves on hopefully staying ahead of the curve again. The agenda today is the capital. You can see that we're into the presentation, and then during that time, as the presentation, we're also going to do the capital budget discussions at the same time. So staff behind us are not necessarily going to come up for when their department is, but we'll stop at each department, and they will be here to answer any questions you have, because they're the content experts. They're the ones that put their budgets together. We're just the two that get to present it, and Gord's the yes or no person that says you can't have that. But they're here to answer the technical questions and answer anything you have. So as we go through it, I encourage you to ask questions and stop as we're in each area, and we'll hopefully get anything that you need to know answered. And if we don't, we will find that for you. Then you can see that Thursday, January 23rd, will be our operating budget. That's when we'll bring it, and we'll also present any possible changes to the capital budget or anything else that's maybe happened when they announce more grants or take away more grants. We'll hopefully not have too many changes. And then the open house we scheduled for Tuesday, March 17th. Hopefully everybody will put that in their calendar and know to be here for our open house. As always, we start with our vision and mission just to show you and everyone else what Town of Minto stands for and what our goals are with that. I'll read it, but our strategic direction. Unfortunately, our strategic plan is a little bit dated, but still fairly applicable, we think, as staff. We haven't gotten around to getting this process updated yet because of so many other projects going on. But you can see the breakdown in there has always been where our strategic directions lie. And it's fairly well balanced through a lot of stuff. And you can see that a lot of the stuff that we're into heavily, economic development, planning and development, and agriculture and environment are three of the top areas that we work and are progressing very fast on. Development is you all know, is huge and is moving forward very quickly. So those are how our strategic direction is broken down. There's our org structure, which was like a couple weeks ago. It changes fairly rapidly right now. So there's different areas, but it kind of gives you an idea of how we're kind of structured right now. And as you can see, 44 full-time equivalent positions, which includes the one that was approved a few meetings ago in Public Works. So that's only up 4 from 2010. So in a decade, we've only increased 4 full-time employees, which I think is kudos to the staff for taking on the extra work, because we have added a lot of programming over the past decade, and we've added a lot of services, and we've got a lot more buildings and development and stuff like that going on, and staff has been able to absorb a lot of it and keep moving forward, which I think is kudos to them. I'm not from the business world, obviously, but I know in the business world, when you expand as fast as our corporation has, a lot of business world would have expanded even more as with employees and that stuff. So I'm very proud of the staff and how they've been able to do that. The restructuring is in progress, as we talked about, and is being received very well. I like to hope, and staff can correct me, but we're very open with it. We're explaining it to the staff all the time and engaging them on how things are going and what's happening. So I haven't heard too many complaints, but obviously I'll probably be the last one to hear that. So, but I haven't heard much from the department heads either. We're in the process of hiring a new CAO, and we'll be hopefully completed in the new year. Just a reminder that this budget, as we're going through it, does not fund, and the org chart does not fund a public works director in 2020 as of now. And various shared service talks are taking place and will help the operating side of the budget, which you'll see some presentations in the future of that. But again, that's out of the KPMG study and just out of other things that we've been progressing and working on for a while now to help us bring some more revenue in and to help us keep moving forward with a bunch of our services. Another reminder, the slide we added this year is just to remind you of the capital projects that were completed or pretty much completed in 2019 and where your capital dollars went last year. So we did the George Street North in Harrison, the water main there, replacement and road resurfacing. The new pumper was delivered to the Palmerston station, which was a 2-year process. The water main looping from William Street to Prospect Street area, we got that water main run through the park and looped. Numerous paving projects around Minto, and I think everybody's seen that and driven on the roads, and that made a huge difference in the municipality being able to complete a lot of those. The wastewater or sewer SCADA system implementation was put in. William Street and Clifford had the upgrades so that we could service Schwint and get that road upgraded and repaved in that area. Ann Street Clifford was a huge project, the reconstruction there. And the community centers had various upgrades to their AV capabilities, and I personally spent a lot of time in the facilities and have heard a lot of good things about it and how the speaker system's beautiful now, and the TV screens has been a great addition. So that was another big project that was very well received and well timed. So that was just a few. There's obviously way many more, but we just wanted to kind of give you a quick reminder and highlights of what we've completed this year in the projects. Now I turn this over to Gord because he is the asset management expert.
Thanks, Chris. So as you know, at the last meeting only a week ago, we received the updated financial strategy and the updated asset management plan. And as you may remember, John Murray said, well, our target is 8.7, 8.8 million. In a perfect world, that would get rid of the infrastructure deficit over time. But we also live in the real world, so we kind of work towards it. It's kind of like, as we had in the beginning of this presentation, our vision and our mission. That's our asset vision and mission. And it helps in setting priorities too. So we look at the levels of service, and again, as we mentioned, I think our levels of service have certainly increased, and they're, even in the hard assets, are much better than they were. If you think back to how many, leaking sewer lines we used to have, and water main breaks, and rough roads, and I think it proves that if we get the money, we have the ability to deliver the projects. And for those, anything better. And again, it hammers home, and you'll see more in the budget. Minto can't do this alone. We need the support of our partners in the province and the federal government to assist us reaching these goals.
So as you can see, there's a breakdown of the tax dollar, and I like putting a slide in it, and it should be viewed all the time because it really drives home the point, which I know you as council know and staff we know, but it's of all the tax dollars, $1 we get 39% of it. So we have a ton of the infrastructure, and we get 39%. So we have a lot to do with not so much. The education share is 17%, and as you can see, the county gets 44%. The county is expecting a plus around the 3% increase is what they're predicting for 2020 in their budget. Yet to be finalized and yet for us to hear. And a reminder that it's increased a little bit, but not a lot. That 1% increase in taxes gives us a whopping $53,000 more in our coffers to be able to use. So when we're talking percentages of increases, that kind of gives you an idea of 2 or 3% increase gives us how much money. So that's a very good slide. Where do you want to talk about?
Sure. So here's our best guess as some of the large grants. And the OMPF, it's beyond a guess. That got confirmed. And as you notice, we're on a bit of a downtrend since 2017. And even though I'm sure you've heard the government say the formula has remained the same, and that's true, but the formula is made up of many factors, some of which is the household income, our average assessment compared to the average assessment in the province, and also the kind of the mix of assets that you have, how much rural and all that too. And so I guess in kind of the good news category, our assessments are increasing, so our base is coming up, but as we're getting closer to that provincial average, this is kind of like the subsidy, it's getting cut. So we make it a little bit on the increased taxes, but we lose it a bit on the other. Yeah. OCIF, I do want to say there's a lot of assumptions in this budget we're presenting, and here's one of them. Back when OCIF formula came in, the government of the day gave us allocations 5 years in advance, which ended in 2020. After the election, the whole program was under review. We weren't even sure if we'd get 2019. We got 2019, and we have a letter probably going back about 5 weeks ago now, but the formula is staying the same. So I've slotted in as if we're going to get what we thought we'd get 5 years ago. That may or may not be true. As recently as yesterday, we heard the actual allocation should be out any day. So again, hopefully by January we'll have that. So yeah, we kind of like we're losing on the one and we're gaining on the other, and this year we're ahead of the game by 33,000. So what's nice about these grants is they're relatively loose, and the OCIF formula to spend on roads, but it's not for a particular project, like conditional grant. So that's good.
So we'll let Gordon talk about the reserve contributions.
So this is just the money in that we have roughly in the budget. Again, we haven't done the operating yet either. So this is for what we put in 2019. We're not projecting any debt in 2020. So again, we're trying to replenish our reserves. That we often have to deplete them in the same year to fund these projects, but we have tried to maintain the reserve allocations in the operating budget. I guess the next one kind of looks at the consequences there. So again, if we don't borrow this year, we didn't borrow last year, our debt is coming down, roughly by 1.1 million in principal per year. So there's a lot of things on the books in the next few years, and I guess the good news is that as we've drawn it down, possibly in a couple of years, if we had to, we could borrow again and just be back up to where we were, let's say 4 to 5 years before that.
Gord, if there's questions,
Yeah,
you're okay
certainly.
for people
Yeah,
just to
just
go
leave it
ahead.
up.
We'll make it open concept here. So if you have a question, just put your hand up or stop Gord or Chris and go ahead and ask it. Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, through Gord, that reserve page, is it, have you ever had a reserve for economic development? It's a $500,000 budget, and we have softer
So
services
the
with them.
economic development, the reserves aren't that great because we've used them up a lot, but we do have what we call unexpended capital. So if we sell a lot, or we have some other kind of thing, we put it in for economic development. And we've been able to go the last few years with either using some development charges or just using up these proceeds. I mean, Ann Street has been great. Now we're kind of coming to the end of that, but we've been able to finance virtually all of our economic development either through past reserves or through the sale of land without
Creating a new one.
Yeah, without tapping into tax dollars
Thanks.
for that.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the reserves or the debt slide there? So 5-year capital plan funding. Just to keep in perspective that this is a projection. It's not carved in stone by any means. It gives you an idea, and we're going to have future slides explaining some of this, but as staff can attest, stuff keeps fluctuating and changing so fast. For example, if we were to get all of the development in Palmerston that's been coming towards us, that obviously accelerates everything, whether we need to upgrade the sewer treatment plant, we need to do Main Street, we need to do Whites Road. Those projects all of a sudden leapfrog and jump forward. So this is a projection, but it changes from year to 2 years ahead because, quite frankly, we've never seen this fast a growth in Minto as we've seen in the past few years, which is great, but it throws our 5-year plan into kind of a mixer and we kind of spin it around and pull it back out again because projects are jumping forward and that kind of stuff. So this is gives you an idea of what's coming in the different areas. And each one, as we go through, we'll explain it a bit more. And what Gord's been able to put down there is how you can fund each one of it, at the bottom there if we get different grants and stuff like that. But, as we said, OCIF and grants of that, those fluctuate. We're not guaranteed to have.
And we've got a whole new acronyms, the ICIP, that we never had in the past. And again, they're competitive. So if we get them, great. If we don't, well, those projects generally don't go because they're ones that we can't fund anymore.
Mayor?
Yeah. So go ahead and ask without my permission, okay?
Okay, thanks. Wellington County usually project growth, and we're obviously ahead of the growth that they projected.
Yes.
Yeah, by quite a bit. Is there any way we can get a true projection of where we're heading from this past year, or is there any way we can?
Well, a lot of it comes from Terry's presentations. That kind of gives you a good idea of what's on the books and that too. And the county planning department, they update their population projections all the time too. So,
I often thought the Wellington County projections weren't where we were, even before we got them.
Yeah, I think this is kind of interesting, is we always get like the average family house and all the 7 lower tiers and that. And of course, we're near the bottom in that too. But I think I've said in the past, we're the lowest, and the south of the county is growing faster, so that gap's getting bigger. This time it reversed. Us, Wellington North, and Mapleton, our growth rate was faster than Placentia, Welfare, and Moses. So that could be like a leading indicator.
Do they do their projection on history, or do they projection?
This is actual. This is just comparing 2019 assessment to 2020 assessment. and I think ours was up by over 4% for this mythical average house. And whereas in the south of the county it was maybe 2 or 3, and normally we'd be up by 2 and they'd be up by 5.
Right.
And I think we've all noticed the increased activity, and a lot of it is in migration, mostly from outside Wellington County too. So, as Chris was saying, this is what changes your projections. Like we may think, well, we'll service that land, and a great example is the Ann Street. If you recall, we financed over 20 years, and it sold out in 4.
And I think Terry and I were at a meeting, and I'll pass because Terry has a way better memory than I do, but we've beat our projections for housing, correct, for this year? So the designated number of houses they figured Minto would grow, we've beat them for 3 years now. Now, that being said, a lot of the places in the south that are somewhat out of land, and they're trying to look at expanding too. So that last presentation on how the county's going to do the MCR and the OPA, look at the official plan and that stuff, this is where it's going to be a very competitive process this time, because we're seeing, it used to be the south would grow very, very fast, as Gord said, and we were not so much. So we get a little bit, and the south would get quite a bit because they grew a lot faster. Now all of a sudden we're growing very fast as well. So it's going to be a very hard process for the county to figure out where they project the growth numbers and who's going to get expansions and all that kind of things through the official plan. Because
Can we lobby them to let them know, or is that's what we should be doing, or do we just sit back and wait?
No, that's so the secondary plans that you keep seeing and we keep bringing back to you and adjusting and that stuff.
Right.
That's part of the lobbying that we're doing, is to say we've got our secondary plans ready. This is where we're seeing our growth going to go. So we're doing the homework more or less for them to say we're ready. You know, we see this in Clifford, Palmerston. This is where we want to expand the boundaries, and actually, as you know, we're going ahead and looking if we can do some on our own without waiting for that process, so that we can keep the growth going. Because if we don't get urban boundary expansions in particular, we're done. Like we don't get to expand much more because we're out of land. So we're lobbying quite heavily, and the county's working very well with us in that. But that's why Bill stayed on to help us do these secondary plans, so we can have a good presentation and move forward to say we've got our ducks in a row type thing.
And then you can help you with your budgeting. You'd be a lot tighter with it.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Okay.
Hopefully.
When was the last time we asked for an urban boundary extension or expansion?
It didn't come to fruition, but when we were developing the Palmerston Industrial Park, we had some MDS issues, and we had preliminary discussions with North Perth for, well, we're going to smooth out King Street at the same time, and possibly try and make an adjustment to the properties right across the road on 123. So we got, I'd say, about 2/3 through the process, and we actually got talking to municipal affairs, but then for various reasons it didn't conclude. So that's the closest. I don't think,
Barry?
I don't think the town of Minto did it.
No, well,
It predates me slightly, but we did do like a municipal urban boundary expansion by picking up some residential lots along King Street. The last urban boundary expansion that we've done within Minto was the Palmerston Industrial Park. So that would have been 2004 when we bought the Noble Farm property and expanded to the west side of Minto Road.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know how often some of our folks to the south have expanded, likely a lot. So we waited a little bit longer to ask, so hopefully they'll.
Yeah, and
nice
as we mentioned, like we've never seen growth like this, and that's what's exciting for staff, but and council and residents, but it's also at a pace that's very crazy. Well, it's somewhat exciting to staff. We'll stay with exciting is the word we're going to use. So I guess because I'm up here, I get to go first and do that. But so fire department's the first one. As you can see in the picture there, that's the pumper truck that we got delivered this year.
It's a great picture.
It was. It actually it's in the Fort Garry calendar this year that goes out to all the fire departments in Canada. So we won the contest for that. So it was pretty neat. But very little in capital other than fire hall renovations, which is Clifford. We have a lot of stricter decontamination procedures coming in, and which means that they have to come back and gear has to be washed and the firefighters have to be washed. And we don't have any shower facilities in Clifford, so we need to renovate and put some proper washrooms in and some proper showering facilities. And then it's taking their bunker gear off the floor and putting it in a bunker gear room with proper ventilation and that. So that's what that renovation. We've actually looked at it for about 3 years now. It's been on the budget, and we just kind of keep delaying it. But we really would like to do something next year. Is kind of design, build the project, and get the renovation done. So we have those proper facilities. Other than that, it's just continue on with our bunker gear replacement. As you know, bunker gear is supposed to be replaced every 10 years. So we buy so many every year to stay on top of that, so we don't have to come to you with 80 sets at once. And then future ones is we're going to have to buy a tanker truck eventually, maybe in 2022, maybe sooner. We have a 1989 still in the fleet and a couple of early 1990s, so they're still running and still fine, but we should look at replacing those. And we have a 2005 pickup is one of the pickup we use, so we'll be looking to work with Public Works to rotate one of their vehicles into the fire hall and rotate it that way, so that we're not buying a brand new one, but rotating with Public Works and Recreation. That we've come up with a system, and we've been working on it for a bit now. So, any questions on fire department capital? See none. Then we just jump right into Public Works. So the big thing in Clifford this year is you're going to see is we've broken it down as Public Works always does, and then there's a master one at the end. But this is the major projects in each of the areas. In Clifford this year is the Ann Street section to carry on with it and finish off Ann Street with the paving, curbs, storm sewer, all that type of thing. So that's the big one that we're looking at in Clifford to finish Ann Street off, and then also a little bit of work to do on William Street. But that's the major work in Clifford to be done this year. And Mike and you guys, if there's anything we forget, just jump in if you want to say anything. Just making sure you're back there.
Paying attention.
So we talk about finishing off Ann Street. That's the curbs and gutters, asphalt.
Yep, and it's from which I can see it on the map here. Which one is it, Mike? It's
Allen Street, from Allen Street south to roughly.
So it's the portion in black there on your map. And then that finishes off Ann Street. That is completely done, and that project can put to a close. As Gord said, we sold out the lot, so this is the last part of getting the street done and paved. Then next we have Hairston, and as everybody knows, the major project in Hairston is going to be the Arthur Street East connecting link, which we got the grant for. And with that, we need to do Lawrence, and it's Lawrence Ave. We researched it, and it's Avenue. It's the only avenue we have in Minto, but it is actually Lawrence Ave, not Lawrence Street. The reconstruction of it while Arthur Street's being done, so that 4-inch upgrade is done. Just a little note on that it is to help, like that road will lead into the new subdivision someday when they come with draft plan and get that done. But this is a road we needed to do anyway without that subdivision. The sewer line or wastewater line is going to be extended and then eventually taken into that subdivision by the developer. And the water line will go in and loop around with William Street and that. But this is a road that we've been working on getting everybody in Harrison off of 4-inch water mains for a while now. So this is one that we've had to do and looked at, including the sidewalks and that to help get the walking path and the way into the school for the kids. So this is not just related to that subdivision. This is something that we've had, as the guy said yesterday in Public Works, that it's been on the board for a long time. This project, so it just makes sense to do it, as we talked earlier in an earlier report, at the exact same time that Arthur Street's being done.
What are we putting in Arthur?
I think it's everything, isn't it, guys?
Oh, as far as church, the boundary out there, yeah. That's the whole summer and like this year, the whole summer shot there.
We have been proactive, and the three public works guys and myself met with the school board down in Guelph, and so we had a very productive meeting with them. Their services go in. There's an empty lot that we own as the town at the end of Lawrence Avenue. It's on the right hand side, and their services for the school actually run right through that lot into the school. So we had a proactive meeting with them that we'd like to. They need a new water line service because they've had a couple breaks that our guys have been in to help them with into that school. So we've talked to them about moving their services off that lot, pushing it to where the walking trail is going to go into the school, and that would actually open up a lot that we would be able to then declare surplus and sell to help us generate a little bit more revenue to help towards this project. So that's another bonus of this, but also talking to them about school routes and the kids walking to class and how the interruptions are going to be, and get that all started before we haven't even put it to tender yet. But we've been proactive and try and get the school board on board so that they know what's coming, and they were very appreciative of that. And they can also put in their capital budget to run new services into their school, hopefully, if that's what they choose.
So when they come out of the front of the school, they'll all have to go east, out, down they'll not be able to come up Arthur at all, so they'll have to reroute their buses.
Yeah, they will have to. There'll probably be some rerouting the buses around out to the blind line and in that way. We're trying to keep it as minimal as possible. One of the things you'll probably see in a report very soon as the tender's ready is we'd like to get this out to tender in January, so that we can get a contractor awarded quickly, and then we can sit down with the school board, the contractor, and our staff to figure out routes for the kids and all that stuff and time frames and that, because there's a lot of planning that's going to go into this project simply because of the school route and the sidewalks and routing kids and that. So I think it is January, right, Mike, that we're wanting to get this out.
That's correct. We're shooting for January,
and then we can get that, and we promise the school board as soon as we get the contractor that we'll have another meeting with them right away to get that all figured out. So whatever way the kids have to come out and how the buses are going to go. Yeah. Anything else in Hairston?
So the services right at the main at the lights. I'm sure when we went through the uptown, they were all upgraded, so we don't have to dig that all up again.
that's correct. The main component at the stoplights themselves is an upgrade to the stop lights. The main control panel's been hit multiple times over the last few years, and I believe 3 out of the 4 poles themselves have been hit, so they are compromised. So we're looking at upgrading that intersection, not going any works within the intersection, but the stoplight circuit itself.
Any other questions about Hairston? And then on to Palmerston. As you can see, there's a couple projects there that you've already been approached with. The Henry Street project's in there. That's the financing of, we take it in, we're paying the contractor to do it, but we've made that agreement with the developer to pay us back for the most part on that project. So that project's already started. It's been tendered. It's been awarded, and he's actually started moving equipment and mobilizing there to get some work done this winter. Brunswick Street culvert. That's only going to go if we get the funding. We still haven't heard if we got that grant. It's going to come tomorrow, right, Grant?
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I think we're the same place we were in September. So we're being approved by the province. This was before the federal election was even called. and we're waiting for federal approval. And at yesterday's treasurers meeting, I found there's 3 of us in Wellington County that are in that position. So, a good example. I've got it in the budget. We're ready to go, but it's not guaranteed. We don't have the confirmation of funding, but we're reasonably confident if we made those barriers so far. Who knows? I really thought that once the Parliament was recalled, we would have heard by now. I don't know.
So this is an example in Palmerston of stuff that's happening that we didn't really predict, but now projects have moved up. So the 15,000 for Main Street, that's to start engineering. We need to do, as Belinda says, a big dig on the Main Street in Palmerston. The county has it on their books for 2024, 2025, somewhere in there. They're going to be flexible working on us, but that's from Toronto Street all the way out past Tim Hortons is the road to be redone. So that's going to be a huge project that's going to be on the books coming up soon. So we'd like to start some engineering work on that. But then once we heard about the Royal Terrace going for an expansion and looking at a new home and works done there, the Whites Road project that we brought to you numerous years and just we push it off, we push it off, we push it off. That project's now come to the forefront that we need to get that project done probably sooner rather than later, because if we don't have it done and they're starting to build, we have to be able to provide them with enough water and work with them that we have enough water capability out there. So that includes running water and upgrading the sewer lines from the pump house on Whites Road. We just put the new well all the way out to the urban boundary there. So that's a project that we've talked about and said, well, we'll do it next year, but next year's almost here because we have to get that one done. So the Public Works is going to spend some money in that and get that project engineered next year too, that hopefully we got those two ready, that if grant opportunities come, we can apply and get it and be ready to go, because we're going to have to do them sooner rather than later. The Whites Road one has to be done before they put a shovel in the ground for that one. So those are two important things. Also on here, you can see that in black, the recommended project it's ongoing. It's a carryover, but the Industrial Park Road, Minto Road, Industrial Park is getting the bulb built at the back, and we're running the lines to the back. That's ongoing. Didn't get done at the end of this year, so they're going to get that done in the first thing in the spring, if not throughout the winter if they have time. And the other one that's in black, you can see the block at the bottom there that's not on here, but is a expansion or work being done at the sewer treatment plant in Palmerston. And this is the clarifier project. And it's a fairly significant project that you're going to see a report coming to next council meeting on that we'd like to apply for a grant for that, because it is about a $3 million project. Mark, is that correct?
Correct.
So it's a clarifier and upgrades to the plant, and there's an opportunity to apply for a grant for it. So they're working on the report and some engineering to bring to you and explain the whole project. That if we can get that grant, we'd be going ahead with that if allowed.
Yeah, so of the overall roughly 8 million that we have projected, 1.5 million is the part of the clarifier that would get done in the first year. And as Chris says, we haven't even finished the application. It's due, I believe, January 22nd. This is another variety of the ICIP, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. They're calling this one Green Stream. And we're going to put in for that. I put it in the budget just so that if it did happen, that everything got approved very quickly, we could actually start it in 2020. Given our experience with bridge and that, it's probably unlikely. Probably everything will be off a year, but we have to prove that we're ready for it just in case. And as Chris was talking about the Palmerston Industrial Park, that basically covers the economic development part of our budget too, because we thought we had some urgency to do it this fall. Contractor was running behind, and it turned out it wasn't so urgent, so we're going to do that project. Basically, that's roughly $400,000 that we're just going to rebudget again. And the other economic is that RED grant for very small capital projects and streetscapes, so we have that too. Again, the timing is uncertain, I guess.
In December about RED.
Yeah. This being December, we
We're
still
running
may. So we'll firm that up again once we're here too.
So when we talk about the clarifier, I mean, we've talked about it for a number of years as well. How serious would it be, Mark, if it died on us tomorrow?
Yeah, that'd be bad. Very serious. Yeah, it's still operating in operating condition now, but we definitely need to get moving on it because the issue is we only have one, so we don't have the ability to take it out of service for maintenance, or if there is a catastrophic failure of some sort, we have no way to fix it. So.
And this grant that you're applying for, Mark, it's 26% would be our share.
Yeah, 26.67.
So it's kind of scary, when you think about this clarifier situation. I mean, they're not a real sophisticated piece of equipment, but it's important that they operate. And if I just from talking with Mark, we don't have a plan if it malfunctions or whatever. I mean, we'd have to come up with a pretty serious contingency plan, and it would likely be fairly expensive to, I don't know, take that water somewhere else until we get it fixed.
Yeah, or a package plant on site that we'd pay by the day. It would be very expensive to deal with the treatment of that sewage while the repair is being completed.
So that's Palmerston right now. We'll talk about some future projects coming up at the end of this slideshow. But is there any question on Palmerston or any of the other public works projects you see on the map here?
Yeah, I think it's really nice the way we work things here. We do a little bit in each center and keep everybody happy. You don't hear the thought that we're doing everything in Clifford or we're doing everything in Palmerston or whatever in Hairston. We're doing a little bit where it's needed. We don't have extra money.
No, we don't. We don't. Cord reminds us of that every day.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the rural area, speaking of that, we have in the budget $250,000 to do some more culvert work on the 12th line. This is not the repaving it or doing the entire road, but getting the culverts done to get ready to do more work in the future on that. So that's the main project in the rural area this year is that road.
And I guess in the difficult choices, as you know, we didn't get the Minto Normandy, and we'd hoped to put some money in every year to do that, but just to get the tax increase somewhat plausible. So yeah, those are very good projects, but we need to back that out. And if a project comes along that will qualify, we'll try again.
This has nothing to do with the projects. It might be a typo, but I see Minto Hawks turned into Minto Town Line.
Yeah, I see we talk about moving the boundary.
Just
The road needed to be improved, so we just moved it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be the one in the gray at the top there.
Yeah. Typo.
We were just making sure that everybody was looking at the map and could read it. So, well, we appreciate that. And I think one of the things too, and I noticed in the asset management plan presentation that our structures, culverts, bridges, and that were in good shape and they had high percentages. And you can see on this map, which Public Works has put here, that you've done a lot of work in the structures with all the stars on there, all the different structures that we have replaced, and stayed on top of them with staff and council's foresight to keep on top of this and keep improving that. So you have done a lot of work, and we still will carry on with it, but we managed to stay on top of it fairly well.
So when we talk about the road condition rating number 5, is that the worst, or is there 6 or 7?
That's good.
6 and 7's good. You don't want to get too much below 5.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I was going the other way then. So.
Yeah.
Normies are 3 then.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions about the rural area? So then there's your list of general capital public works. So this is getting into the more detailed ones. as you can see, there's another whole bunch of sidewalks in there that Mike's got some money to stay on top of that and keep the sidewalk program, that master plan that he brought to you last year, the year before, about the master route that we're going to take and going to one side of the road instead of two sides of the roads and that type of thing. That's keeping on top of that work. There is another $260,000 in there for more paving so that we can resurface, just grind, mill and pave a whole bunch more roads and keep on top of that to keep the difference that we made this year going forward. The plow, the grader, that's in there. You see that you approved there last time. It was a good deal, and we got the used grader, which is going to help keep costs down, but keep the equipment operating sufficiently. And then numerous other ones. There's some cemetery work to be done. Hairston wastewater is $315,000. So there's some work being done on there. Other ones that, and at the bottom, you can see the 1.5 million that Gord has as a place setter in there for the plan upgrades that we're hoping to get that grant for. That's the clarifier at the Palmerston sewer treatment plant. Any questions on Public Works? Yeah, go ahead.
Just we were talking about the clarifier or some emergency come along and we haven't budgeted for it or haven't put any money away. Is there any way, are we strong on these capital projects that we can borrow a little bit from each capital project to do an emergency thing if we needed to?
Yeah, that's where I often say, you get that debt repayment plan or limit, and I think it's about 12 million, and so there's so much new borrowing you could do. That's why you never want to be at that limit, because something could happen, say like the clarifier or something. But we don't have a choice, we have to have a sewage treatment plant. If we have to borrow 3 million, we have to borrow 3 million. And we do have the latitude. We wouldn't want to do it, but if we had to, we could. Just like, these days, any kind of disaster or anything like that, you got to have
some flexibility.
On your credit line.
Okay, so we could be covered if we wouldn't, our community wouldn't be in jeopardy. Wouldn't have to run to the government and say, well, we will anyway.
We will anyway. Ask for a handout.
All right, thanks.
And one more, I just wanted to, and I'm going to pass this back to Todd. One of the things that we are going to have to look at in the future is some work on our 3 water towers. And Todd can explain that a little bit better. Don't mean to put him on the spot, but he can explain it better than I can.
Okay, yeah, so what we've got for next year is Hairston. We do have a problem with the coating on the inside of that tank, so we will have to drain it and put money in there. But going ahead over the next 5 to 10 years, our towers are all at the age that the exterior coatings are coming to the end of life. So starting next year, we're going to do some testing on those exterior coatings, just see where we're at. They say 20 years, but it could be 30 years. But this testing that we're going to do over the next 2 years will tell us where each of the towers is at. They are a big ticket item when it comes to having to repaint them. So if you can catch them before you're at the repainting stage, you can touch them up, which is still very expensive, but considerably cheaper than having to do a full repaint on them. So we're going to start with Palmerston and Hairston next year because we're inspecting those towers anyways, doing this testing on the exterior coating, and then we'll get Clifford the following year.
Is that the OEM and with the coating, the paint coating? Or is that somebody other than put the paint on in the first place?
I'm not sure who put them, like it'd be through the initial installer that put them on, but from what I understand, there's such a large variety of different coatings too that they're using in that era when our towers went up. So there's a big variance on how well they all stand up too. So this testing is going to give us that information, the thickness of it, what kind of coatings were actually used, and hopefully we have lots of life left in them. They talking to the people that do the inspecting for us that go in and look at our towers, they don't seem too worried about it, and we aren't getting customer complaints like when they're talking about towers that have went way past, there's rust that you can see, and they're getting complaints from the public. So we're not in that bad a shape, but after next year we'll definitely have a better idea where we're at.
Thanks, Todd. So that's just another thing that it's great that staff staying on top of it and coming ahead and with a plan that they can show you in the next 5-10 year plan. This is the report we've got. This is what we're going to do. So you'll see that in a couple other spots in the budget, but staff are trying to stay on top of this stuff and make sure that's not a surprise. We have to paint a water tower and have that on. So, any other questions, concerns with Public Works? Perfect. On to facilities and parks. As you can see in the budget, the facilities and parks is not much. When I say not much, it looks like a big figure, but there's not much being done capital wise because this is the year we know as our master rec plan. So Al and his staff have looked at the facilities in the parks and done the kind of the bare minimum until we get that report and get that plan done and have a direction on where we go, so that we're not throwing money at parks or facilities that might, be changing or be doing something different in the future. So they're getting some stuff done. They're putting some work into different areas, but keeping it to a minimum until we get this plan done. So it was council's direction, and staff agrees wholeheartedly that this is what we want to get done first. The big ticket you can see in here is the bridge painting and park upgrades. So Al's getting a section of the bridge painted so we can stay on top of that. And this is to my point just a couple minutes ago, is getting the bridge looked at, and we're coming up with a plan. And he's already got a plan that you do so many sections each year that it's not going to be a big ticket, huge money item one year. It's a little bit each year, but also getting some structural looks at it that we know how good a shape it's in, what it's going to take, and make sure that we're staying on top of any structural needs that's maybe required for that bridge. It's the centerpiece of the town, and we want to make sure that it's kept in very good shape. So Al's on top of that with a plan to stay on top of the painting and stay on top of any structural work that may come forward, so that there's a plan put forward that a little bit's done each year, that it's not one great big sum of money. And then just a little bit of work to the facilities, to the arenas, some work in the museum, but as you can see, it's not comparable to other years when they've done a lot of capital work. This is a pretty lean year until we get that plan done. So just some highlights of it. The 5-year facility and some ideas, some stuff that's going to have to go forward. But next year they're planning purchasing some 8-foot tables, some tires for the Olympia, some logos, and some lobby speakers, all fairly low ticket items. New computers, because I think they're still operating off Commodore 64s in the arenas, so we're going to upgrade those. The pool is in need some deck equipment, some stairs, guard chairs. Again, little stuff. And the Ag Society has expressed interest in making a donation to paint the storage barn, which is out near the road in Palmerston, to keep it up, staying, and it's a very useful storage area. The big ticket in the satellite facilities is there's new roofs are needed at the Harrison and Palmerston train stations. And then, as I told you, the underneath of the pedestrian bridges is going to be inspected and painted. And then there's work that with the partnership with the Lions Club that's going to be done on the decking around the station, which has already started. So, parks, purchase some assets. So they've been moving a lot of chairs and tables indoors to outdoors and back and forth, and it takes a lot of staff time to clean them and make sure that they're capable of going back in, that you're not tracking mud in and having people in their nice wedding dresses sit on muddy chairs inside and stuff like that. So looking at a trailer or something that can move some different things around, and we have so many events now that are happening outside because we have the park facilities to do that it makes sense to have some outside equipment and some inside equipment. So they're looking at investigating some stuff that way that can help improve how we deliver outdoor facilities and outdoor services. And then as Al and Matt put in here, that in general it's based on the decisions made through our recreation master plan. What we've done, the theme as future projects look forward to is, and I say look forward to, I mean that sarcastically, but we'll be repaving the Palmerston and Harrison parking lots, which is going to be a big ticket item. We've all driven through the 2 arenas and seen what the parking lots are like and know they need upgrades, but that's going to be a fairly big ticket item. And then renovating the community center kitchens and bars, because they get so much use and they take a lot of use, and we just got to stay on top of it to keep the renters and that happy. So those are some projects coming forward that no matter what the plan says, will have to be done. The plan won't go into that detail to say that it should repave the parking lot because we know that. But those are some ones that are going to be on the horizon in the future. Yep.
Just wondering about the roofs on the 2 train stations. Wondering if there's any thought been given to putting.
We had that conversation. I'll let Al answer that because we did have that conversation.
No, as long as it's on the radar,
Yep.
that's fine. Sure, you'll look into it then if you can.
As we're also going to be investing in the roof systems. So I think that's the roof that we polished in the train station is not 20 years old. So it's probably
Which is good actually for an asphalt roof.
As expected, but the one in Harrison really is it's around a 10-year roof, and we should be doing a lot.
Asphalt just doesn't last like it used to though.
Well, I think that will change. So we're going to look.
I think they made them biodegradable so that they're better whenever you have to get rid of them, but they forgot that they have to last a few years in the roof first.
And we've noticed too, just in personal residences too, that the sun is so hot now, like with climate change and that UV rays on the sun just not only bakes your skin but bakes your shingles faster too, is what a lot of people.
There's a lot of people going for steel roofs. Just. Yeah, I know. I know, but you wouldn't have to come back as often.
No.
Question on the bridge, Al. How often does that have to be inspected by a civil engineer?
We are going to get into the practice of having it done with municipal bridges every other year. I don't know the requirements, but that's the practice we're going to.
Because it's 115 years old.
It was last
this year?
time, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, where it was 2011.
Yep, that's about right. And 500,000. Now that was more than the destroying all the deaths and that too, but I think that's what Al's trying to get away from. Is,
Yeah.
So we're just going to have to look at that.
Yeah.
And what we talked about as staff is that if when Al gets on that system and gets that put forward, then if it needs just one leg needs to be replaced, then we can do that, which is cheaper than replacing the whole thing, so that we can stay on top of it again. And it's just little bits every year instead of the 500,000 that we had to spend the last time. So, and to back up out, there's standards wise, we've talked about it, but there, for whatever reason, there doesn't seem to be many standards on pedestrian bridges of that length. So we're just going to go ahead and do it with the municipal roadway bridges. So, other questions on recreation? He said it's not a very intense capital budget, but hopefully the plan will give us some good direction on how to go in the future. All right. On to administration, Gordon.
Okay, sorry about that. And the highlights of admin are computer related, and here's one of these other things that kind of come along that you don't control. Microsoft, as probably many of you have heard, is ending its support for Windows 7 and the Office suite of products at the end of this month, basically. So we've had to do a lot of work. We've done quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, I think. Matt and I have been working on 27 computers, I think. Yeah, that all have various incompatibilities and whatever, so we're working our way at that. We're going to nail most of that in 2019, but our servers are starting to get older too, so hopefully through the shared services we can get a better deal, but it's still expensive, and as you probably noticed on yourself too, the hardware prices aren't bad. They keep coming down a bit with the software and the licenses, and you can hardly buy a program on a CD. It's all subscription based, so it's on and on. And I think the licensing, it's the same people that do cell phone plans, right? Well, you have this license and you have it on a laptop and all that, so it takes a while to figure it out too. Also from Bill White's presentation, it's extremely preliminary, but I've penciled in the $80,000 Minto commitment. That is far from being earmarked to specific projects, but we know Harrison flood mitigation is one of our top priorities for maybe the next 20 years or so. So if we try and put aside a little bit every year, we try and do that. Can replace the other well-used Ford Ranger in the building department, and look at building expansion in the next few years too, and various other things. But as far as furniture and that, we're not looking too much. It's mostly just computer related, and you always have to be on a replacement project all the time, even with our crews every day.
One of the projects that Gord just mentioned and to put on your radar too is building expansion for the municipal office here. The portable outside that was going to be a 2-year temporary thing that's now 10 years old, guys. Is meeting its life expectancy, and it's getting tired. So Terry is actually looking into the possibilities of an addition onto this building in replacement of the portable that would kind of go out and match up with the garage here, that would house building and public works, so that his building reserves that we've been collecting for numerous years could be used to fund that project. So Terry's exploring into that, and when he has some more time, he's gonna kind of get some plans together and see how much money's in his reserves. So yeah. But we just want to put that on your horizon, that depending on how much and in cost estimates that he's going to get is, and how much is in his reserves, and when that project goes forward. But we think that would be definitely beneficial, because the shack, public works shack as we call it, is ending its life expectancy out there. So we want to do something with that fairly soon. So, any questions on it? Sorry,
Chris, cybersecurity.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yeah.
so it's, I mean, we all know how important it is. I know the company that I'm working for, we're spending $500,000 over the next 2 years, separating the IT and the OT, and I mean, it's pretty important. And I know that you've reassured us that we're protected.
We're as protected as much as a small municipality. It seems like not a week goes by and you hear about municipality, and virtually all of them are much bigger than us, and they're getting hit hard. As part of this current round of upgrades, we're doing it's only about $3,000 item, another little wall, a physical thing. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to, like, not just Minto, again, part of the shared IT. I think that should be a top priority. It's just, I don't know. I noticed the last few weeks it's been insane. Like how many things, like seems like the Black Friday thing. Our county treasurer was saying, like, yeah, he gets this from his CEO, and something's a little off on the email. They always are a little vague, And at one of the seminars I was at a couple of weeks ago, you could spend millions of dollars, but your employee or whatever is your weakest link. If you click on this or you transfer, so I think that maybe not a big ticket item, but we need to do more education too, because they're getting so sophisticated in that too. So yeah, it's a high priority. You're never going to be 100%, but I think we can always keep doing more, and just trying to keep it in mind as one of your IT priorities for sure.
Yeah, you talk about the clarifier in Palmerston putting us out of business.
That would shut us down.
This would devastate us.
And that's what excites me the most about this grant that we had at last council, that we joined on with all the other municipalities to study our IT and hopefully come together on a joint IT initiative. One of the things Gordon and I've talked about is some of the municipalities that have been hitting that, and some of the ones that have had close calls, is they have the benefit of having somebody on staff that catches it right away and can shut everything down quickly. So that's something that's going to be looked at with this group. Is there a benefit to having somebody monitoring it and on staff? That I know with Bristol Hospital, when they got hit, that one of the things is they had IT on staff and they shut everything down quickly and minimized the damage because they were aware of it. Not saying that we don't now with who we have, but is there a way that we can even improve that more, that we can help that situation out? So this is perfect timing for this grant and for this study, so that we can figure out moving forward how we can better protect ourselves. So
Let's hope the Russians don't interfere with our election.
yeah. Any other questions on administrative capital? So, in summary, and we'll get to the detailed sheets at the end here, but in summary, between 2011 and 2000, almost a decade, close to, but you spent over $39 million in improving infrastructure, which you saw all the different projects that have been completed and all that stuff. 30.3 million is identified in the 5-year plan through 2019. So if what we did in 8-9 years, we haven't predicted to do in 5 years. So is it possible? Probably not, but that also changes time to time, where we need this project comes and that project comes and this one gets shoved away. So as Gord explained, if we were to do it as per the town asset management plan, we'd be spending $8.7 million to address the deficit every year. A project-based 5-year plan will help this council and next anticipate projects, and that's what we try to do in this presentation, is not only tell you what we're doing this year, but keep these other projects on your mind so that you know what's coming up in the future, because there is some significant work coming in the future. And then or allows for borrowing to exceed debt, but not in Gord's watch, is more or less is what we want to say. And Gord keeps an eye on that all the time, that we don't want our borrowing to get past, but it's just whatever we're comfortable with. Many projects we talked about have been pre-approved because we've been successful in grants, and hopefully are successful in a couple of the other ones we have out there. But staff here have done an amazing job over the years getting these grants, and we hear about neighbors that get turned down, and connecting link funding in particular, that a bunch of municipalities got turned down, and we got it again. So it's great, and we're staying on top of things with this help. Hopefully that can continue in future years. More cuts, as Gord talked about, is anticipated in the OMPF, because our assessment is going up. Our average house price is crazily going up. Right, and we're fearful that it's going to continue, because right now the average, what they tell you, is
244, which that seems low.
So we all know from friends and people in the community that you can't buy a house in Minto for $244,000 right now. So we know that the average house price is going to continue to rise once these statistics catch up. The Public Works did their effort, and then you saw it in reducing fleet costs. So they've eliminated a couple plows, they bought the used grader. Looking at stuff like that, then that's a huge asset to our capital program, is that's been able to drop their truck replacement plan and being able to almost fund it with the reserves. Recent spike in interest in Palmerston urban area will require significant capital projects to be completed in Palmerston, in particular in the upcoming budget years. We've done a lot of work in the other 2 municipalities, and we've done a lot of work in Palmerston. But with the couple subdivisions coming in, the Royal Terrace possible expansion, TG Minto talking about their business plans, there's a lot that's coming forward that we need to anticipate and be ready for. And as you heard with the clarifier and other work that these guys in Public Works are planning on, they're getting ready for possible expansions, and if they all go forward by chance, what we'd have to do to stay on top of that with our sewer treatment plan. And that we have lots of units now, but if by whatever reason all of these development came all at once, those will get used up in a hurry, and we want to make sure we're on top of it so that we don't become stagnant and say, we don't ever want to have to come to you and say we're done. We can't, because we have no more room and we're out. And as well, it's the last of the main streets to be done. So the Main Street project is going to be an extremely significant project. That's a long route and a lot of infrastructure to be replaced there, as well as the Whites Road one. So as I said, need to stay on top of the project to ensure growth has the ability to continue and has the infrastructure needed. So we want to stay ahead of it so that when somebody comes and says we would like to build this in one of your communities, we're ready for it and not have to put them on hold or tell them to go away because we don't have the proper infrastructure. So just a summary, there's if you're looking for speaking points, you're looking for a slide to put in your back pocket. Here's the one for the top 5 capital projects for 2020. So if anybody asks what are we doing with our capital money this year, here's pretty much what we're doing. Arthur Street and Lawrence Avenue are the 2 big ones that will be noticeable by everybody. Ann Street and Clifford finishing that off. The flood mitigation work that Gord talked about, not only the 80,000 that you have, but also the spending of that grant.
Modeling, yeah. So we're in the final stages of the National Disaster Mitigation Program, which does not seem like it's going to be renewed. So we have to have the spending of this round done by March 31st, 2020. And that's basically what was 2 councils ago, modeling, taking your 12 alternatives, getting them down to 3 more realistic ones, and the engineers and the Conservation Authority and that are looking, okay, if we did that, what's the thing? And just talking to them yesterday, they thought, oh, well, we found this is wrong or that. So trying to refine it, and what are we talking, 15 million or 30 or what is it? So we're going to continue working on that. That's a high priority.
And then Brunswick Street Bridge / culvert, and then the honorable mention is Henry Street, Palmerston. And the late addition to it is, could be, if the grant is successful once we apply for it, is the clarifier at the Palmerston sewer treatment plant. So that gives you the top 7 projects that we're doing that you'll be able to tell people this is where your money is going to this year. Chris,
what's the James Street tower lot? What are we doing in there? It's on here, James, 127,000. Well, in my head you have one, but you're talking about little projects there, and that was.
Oh, so the projects on the horizon?
Yeah, like what's going on in there for the next year?
John Street?
Dreams. Tower lot.
He's on the 2019 capital plan.
Have I jumped ahead 2 pages? We're not going through all those little ones, are we? Anyway, I just had a question about that one because.
Oh, okay, we'll get to that one in a second. I'll come to that one in a minute. Okay, yep, we'll come to that one in a minute.
Going through all.
Yep. We will talk about that in a minute there. So the projects on the horizons, before we get to that, again, this is a summary for your top 5 speaking points, but these are the ones you need to keep on there, plus others that will be added. But Main Street reconstruction, we didn't even mention this one much, but it's been talked about many times, the Industrial Park lift station, Whites Road reconstruction, which also could include a Brunswick Street lift station if necessary, Palmerston wastewater facility upgrades, and Hairston John Street reconstruction, which we need new water main down most of John Street, which anyone that's driven it knows it's a very long street. So to get us, how many, 16 blocks? 16 blocks. Just a little bit. And then there's the breakdown of, this is the public works. So your James Street, that was what we did this year, the James Street tower lot. So Mike, do you know what that is?
Yeah, so that's the water tower in Palmerston. That's the combination of all the resurfacing that was completed in Palmerston. So there was James Street. There's a section of James Street itself, Queen Street, William Street, the actual parking lot at the water tower and train museum, a couple of sections of Queen Street in Palmerston, as well as half of Yonge Street going up to the arena. So that's just the combination of all those that were completed this past season. Yeah.
So that strip through there is town property where the road or the rail allowance was, right? We own that from one street to the next.
Yes. No.
Is anything going to happen with that in the future, or is that another topic? And we just noticed it going by in the parade there that weekend. It's quite a strip through there that's nothing happening on it. Is it big enough for housing or anything in there?
I'm not
private.
I'd have to look into that, but I don't think we own that.
Right across from Dave Wills.
Oh yeah.
We won't have it. So we could extend a trail through it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So this slide here is just, again, the breakdown of the public works in 2020 and other years, and tells you all the projects that we're doing. And then there's the other departments there. Again, a breakdown of everything that we're doing, but we've highlighted as many of the major projects as we can. Any questions on the breakdown of those before I let Gord talk about how the funding of all those projects is going to happen?
It's a pretty good chart here. I mean, transparency is everything. Getting it on there for the next 5 years is really important to let the public know what it's costing and what we're predicting, because it's pretty expensive to do all these projects.
Absolutely, and that's why I think it was important that we put those summary slides in there, the top projects for this year, next year, and future. And what we did last year is just to keep the conversation going, so that everybody knows that these are the big ticket ones that are coming down the pipe, so that when you're talking about recreation master planning and all the other departments that in different things that are going on, that everybody kind of knows what projects are there and which ones are on the horizon that us as staff talk about weekly. And that we don't want them to be secret, and this is what we're thinking, and this is what we want you to keep in your mind too when we move forward and come with them. So.
Sure, and if something happens here that the project in the 5th year needs to be moved up to year 2, people say, well, why the hell didn't we know about this? Well, there it is. I mean, we've talked about it. We made a prediction. It has to be moved forward to get done because it's an emergency or whatever. And I mean, transparency is everything. So, I mean, I commend you guys for this.
Yep. Jean, maybe?
So the question I had at the start, and I thought, well, maybe I'll get the answer listening to it all, is the 5-year plan is 2023 is pretty light financially. Are we hoping we're going to have all our bills paid and we're going to get an investment of money from the government, or?
Oh, we'll find more to. We'll find more to put in there.
But we do, realistically, we know there are going to be roads that need to be done. We know that computers will be obsolete in another 5 years. We know that. So I'm just wondering why it's as light as it was, because I'm thinking, oh, that looks really good, but
don't. I guess what the best I can say is don't take it too seriously what each year is, because in the past month, and I think in the past month, we've had to rejig projects like crazy that we thought were going to be done in 2024, and now that we're talking 2021.
I just think that if anybody takes the interest to look at this, we know that they don't much. They squawk about it a lot, but they don't come to the budget meeting and they don't really take a look. But if they did, they'd go, so how come we're only going to spend $35,000 in admin to that? Like, let's go to that budget now.
So you tell that one person.
Yeah. Well, it might not even be one because Brian's not here anymore. So.
Yeah.
Life cycle changes.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was very light, and I'm thinking.
When we get to that point, we can guarantee you that it will not be light.
I figured that.
We will do lots. So I think Gord, one of the important things is Gord will explain here, how the proposed to finance some of this is, so that you get an understanding of that too.
So we will go to the next. Yeah. So this is kind of the nitty gritty, and the one thing I want to draw your attention is to, we've traditionally had about $520,000 of tax-supported capital, and we're going to 900. So, well, how did we do that? We basically moved money from the operating into the capital, and it's composed of $260,000 of paving work. So paving, the line between what's a repair, what's capital is kind of fine. And I think we found out in the last year that we can do this, mostly mill and pavement too, and extend the useful life and do that. So it's more properly capital item. We've taken $70,000 of capital sidewalk repairs, and that really what we've been doing is we've been extending a lot of sidewalk too. So that's more property capital. And we had $50,000 in for flood mitigation in the operating anyway. So I put that to basically cover a good chunk of the $80,000 that we're going to try and do there. So that's how we got to 900. So you're going to see corresponding decreases, I believe, at the capital hard cost. About 300,000. It's only going to be 40,000 off there.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. A lot of assumptions on the last page too. It summarizes roughly the grants that we're expecting. So all we can guarantee is this will not be the final document for sure. It'll change. Our beginning balances depends how we end up 2019. What we allocate from reserves will probably have to go up or down, whatever. We're making pretty good use of our especially road capital reserve in this budget, and as I say, there's we could have tripled the road budget easily, yeah, but we just don't have the funds to do it. And the other departments have their priorities too. So we're also anticipating, some development charges and some land sales too that we can run into, which are not 100%. So, as I say, even though we're around 8 million, probably when we're done, just with timing, and it's going to drop back to about 6.5 or 6. So we're doing that, and we're proposing drawing down reserves by 2.4 million to fund a lot of the projects, and things like Ann Street that we know we don't have any grants, but we really have to do it. We have to do some work on the 12th line and work away at that. So that's basically the magic number that we're going to need.
Any questions on that? Any questions on how the funding and how that works?
You talk about all the money all the money we've spent from 2011 to whatever it was, 2017. When we talk about from 2019 to 2024, 8 million, 8.8 or whatever it is, I mean, it's one thing to have the money. It's the second thing to have the people and the power to be able to do it.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Because like they could throw $10 million at us and maybe we couldn't handle that. Because, even if you're not doing the work yourself, as a project management, can you get the contractors in the area? There's only so many. And, we've had bids for 6 contractors at 1. And also, is that maybe a good use of money in the long term? Because if there's a lot of money out there, the contractors go, they have 20%. That's true.
That's why getting the tenders out in January, it makes these guys commit.
Yep.
So
that's one of the reasons why it seems like it was the way we did it to bring some of these reports and pre-approve some of these projects. That we're going a roundabout way, but it's to get that purpose, is that we can apply for the grant, get the grant, and get the tender out quickly, because it is important that we get them, because all the feedback staff gets is this is the time of year when they're in the office doing the work and the paperwork, that they're looking at scheduling their jobs for next year, not in April, May, June, that's when they're already out there. So if we can hit that market now, that's what we want to do. So that's why it works better getting the capital presented to you as soon as we can, so that, and those reports that you've already read on Arthur Street and Lawrence Avenue and the greater, that we get that stuff moving so that we can get it done earlier and hopefully get some good competitive prices. As we found out at the end of this year with Henry Street and the Minto Road and the industrial park, it was hard to find contractors, because when you're tendering at the end of the year, they're already got their work, and it's tougher to find contractors that are able to do it. So I agree with you. Any other questions, Council?
Well, let's just hope that some of Gord's assumptions are correct.
We know they are.
They have been in the past. So
Let's hope he's surprised by how many are.
So moving on, we're ready to, or if there's no other questions.
Yep, so you'll have the operating presented to you with any changes of this in January 23rd, I think it was. So that'll be our next budget session, and we'll have a full operating budget and have a better idea of the full picture hopefully by then, and percentages and that kind of thing with the budget, and then be ready, really raring to go by March.
The House on the 17th, and we usually formally pass at the meeting after that.
Great. So on behalf of the council, thank you guys and gals for all your hard work on this. I mean, we always we're very lucky. This council has been very lucky for a number of years, because the presentations on the budget are always extremely good. I was at a quarter revision meeting last night in North Perth, and we were talking about, so I was trying to establish exactly where the drain was. So I went on to the North Perth website and was looking at some of the drains, and I made mention to a couple of the councillors that were there, and these are long-term councillors, past warden, and I made mention on how how their website was so easy to get around on, and she threw it right back at me. And she said, "I look at the Minto website weekly because she said I really like some of the things that Minto is doing." So I mean, I thought that was a real good feedback from a seasoned counselor and past warden. And so moving right along then, got a motion by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor McKenzie, that the committee of the whole convene into regular council meeting. All in favor of that? That's carried. Thank you. And we're adjourning. So moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the Council of the Town of Minto adjourn to meet again at the call of the Mayor. All in favor of that? Thank you very much for a good meeting.